Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our countdown to kickoff presented by GoBillsPodcast.com. I am your host and founder of the page, Brett McDurphy. Glad to be with you tonight for our Thursday night kickoff. And this is a game I am super excited about. A pivotal matchup in the AFC East is coming to shape, and it is one of the ones that we are not going to forget for sure. As I'm adjusting my camera, guys, I do apologize. I want to get it exactly where I like it. A little bit of technical difficulties, so I apologize about that. But don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, follow us, give your score predictions as well. We greatly appreciate that. This game is going to be one for the Buffalo Bills that they need to start off early on, getting on the roll of putting points on the board, because these Miami Dolphins are no slouch, and they're a very good team that can put points up on you very quickly. They have superstars in the making with Tyreek Hill as well as Jalen Waddle out there on the field, and with Tua Tagovailoa. If you give him a lot of time in the pocket, he will make you pay. You've seen in the past throws going deep to Hill and Waddle. Last week we saw with Tyreek Hill, he had an 80-yard touchdown catch in the second quarter or the second half of the game, and he can make you pay each and every time. The Bills are going to be relying on a pass rush that's going to be a little bit decimated with Dwayne Smoot, as well as a few others out of the lineup. Even Eddie Olafashio is out this week. We do have Kingsley Jonathan activated, which is a great sign for the Buffalo Bills. I do want to bring up real fast the inactives for the Bills so that we can talk about those real quick. Bear with me 1 second as I do that. But the inactive, starting with Taron Johnson, the biggest inactive for the Bills this week, followed by Eddie Olafashio is inactive as well. Joe Andreessen too. The Bills will also be without Javon Solomon this week, Ryan Vandenmark, and I mentioned Dwayne Smoot out there as well. So that rounds out the inactives for the Buffalo Bills this week. As I turn it over to the recording session right now, the Bills are going, like I mentioned, that will be without these playmakers on the field. A lot of defensive players that they will be without, but the Bills do have guys with Cole Bishop being activated, as well as Cedric Van Pran, which I know my buddy Sean Kula of the Red, White, and Bills is going to be excited about having him on the field. A little bit of a news break that is happening. We don't know for sure, but rumors are that the Bills are going to be utilizing Alec Anderson at center today, moving Connor McGovern back to left guard. That has been rumored. We don't know for sure if that's going to happen. If it does, I think it's a move that's a little surprising for me, especially with the emergence of David Edwards and Connor McGovern at center. I thought they did a pretty good job last week, but this could be more of just the Bills trying to establish the run game today so that they can take pressure off of Josh Allen. As for Josh Allen, he does have a hand injury going into this game. We saw him earlier in warmups. He does have a little bit of a tape job on his hand, as well as a glove on his hand. So it's definitely heavily wrapped up. It seemed like his two fingers, it looked like the middle finger as well as the ring finger on his left hand were taped together. So he probably doesn't have a lot of feeling in that hand right now, but it's going to be interesting to see how he takes handoffs in this game and under centers in this game. You might have to adjust a little bit when it comes to those types of things, but it'll definitely be interesting to see what the Bills decide to do. Let's give a little bit of an overview of this Thursday night football matchup. Like I mentioned, it is shaping up to be a pivotal matchup in the AFC East. The Bills last season started off 2-0 against the Miami Dolphins overall. They played both games very tight in those games. The Bills are coming off of a week 1 victory against the Arizona Cardinals. They won 34-28 after trailing the Cardinals 17-3 in the first half, coming back. And the Miami Dolphins narrowly defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 20-17. A little bit of an overview for the Bills is that they are entering this game with momentum after that week 1 comeback. Their offense, led by Josh Allen, who had 4 touchdowns in that game in week 1, looks potent, and they are going to look to spread the ball around to their playmakers. Last week, they threw the ball to 9 different playmakers in the game, and he also finished the game as the leading scorer for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills' defense, after a first half that they wanted to forget about, finished the game pretty solid. They had 4 sacks in the game, led by Greg Rousseau, who had 3 in the game, along with Von Miller with the other one. Allowed under 300 yards of total offense for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray in the first half looked very good, running the ball with James Conner as well. But with Buffalo, second half, they turned it around, and they were able to not only get to Kyler Murray in the game, but they were able to establish 3rd and longs in those situations, which is where Greg Rousseau was able to capitalize on. And you saw what happened there on 3rd downs. They were able to get him to the ground, and they were able to get off the field. So for me, one of the keys to the game for the Buffalo Bills is going to be creating 3rd and longs for Tua, and then getting the pressure on him that comes from the interior pressure as well as outside containment. You're going to see guys like Greg Rousseau, Von Miller come into the game. Also want to see Ed Oliver step up big in this game and create some havoc on him as well. The Bills are going to be going up against the Miami Dolphins, pretty much playmakers. They have a 2-headed tandem of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but in the backfield, they do have a guy in Devon Achane who is coming off of an injury this week. He will be going up against the Bills. And last week, in the first half, the Bills were rushing, pretty much giving up 5 yards per carry, 6 yards per carry each and every play. So the Bills are going to have to get some gap containment inside and create 3rd and longs for the Miami Dolphins. You don't want to create those 3rd and shorts where Tua can get the ball out of his hands easily on slant routes to Hill and Waddle in this game. Another key to the game for me is going to be at the line of scrimmage for the defensive backs. They're going to need to disrupt the timing of Waddle and Hill, and you're going to have to play a little bit of press man coverage in this game. We saw it last year when we had Kaiir Elam play in the game. You saw what happened, and with Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford starting in this game, I want to see some press man coverage in for the Bills to do that. If they are able to do that, then they can disrupt the timing and create some issues for the Miami Dolphins offense. But if you play one-on-one coverage and let them get by you, then they're going to be gone. It's going to be an easy touchdown for them. The Miami Dolphins also had a comeback in week 1, but struggled offensively in the first half of the game. However, they woke up in the second half with a big play, an 80-yard touchdown pass from Tua Tagovailoa to Tyreek Hill. Miami's defense also stepped up big, shutting out the Jaguars in the second half and pressuring Trevor Lawrence effectively. The Dolphins are looking for revenge after losing the series to the Buffalo Bills last season, losing both games, and they will rely on that explosive offense, especially in the passing game. Key matchups for me in this game are going to be the Bills passing offense versus the Dolphins secondary. Allen and his revamped receiving corps is going to be tested in this game, going up against the Bills pass defense, which is going to be led by a familiar face and the return of Jordan Poyer to the Buffalo Bills. He will be going up against Josh Allen. You remember back to about 7 years ago now, Jordan Poyer came to the Buffalo Bills after lacerating his kidney, and he was in the hospital at that point, coming to Buffalo, not really knowing what he was going to expect and what he was going to get himself into. But what a career revival for Jordan Poyer. And congrats to him on signing with the Miami Dolphins, continuing his career there after the Buffalo Bills released him and saved about $5.2 million by doing that. Miami's pass defense is going to give fits to Josh Allen, especially with somebody with so much knowledge of Josh Allen out there on the field. As you hear that hey sound, that is the little bit of the horn coming in. We will see what the news is that's coming in to us. Pre-game moments that you saw with a little bit of the tunnel speech from Josh Allen that was mentioned. But another guy that we have to keep our eyes out, Siren Neal, who also played for the Buffalo Bills the past few seasons, is on that Miami Dolphins defense. He's going to be going up against Josh Allen as well. And he is a key special teams player for those Miami Dolphins. But for me, like I mentioned, it's going to be the first key matchup for me is the Bills passing offense versus that Dolphins secondary. And I think it's going to be so important for the Bills to get the ball out of Josh Allen's hands early and often in this game. You don't want to have him holding onto the ball and taking unnecessary hits that he doesn't need to take at this time. The second key to the game for me is going to be the Dolphins offense versus the Bills pass rush. Miami will need to protect Tua in this game from a Bills pass rush that sacked Kyler Murray 4 times last week. If they can give Tua enough time to get the ball and connect to his playmakers, it's going to be difficult for the Buffalo Bills to win this game. But this is a game, like I mentioned, where the Bills and Josh Allen, they can keep up with with Tua Tagovailoa in this game, and they did keep up with Kyler Murray last week. So it just comes down to if the Bills can create a turnover in this game and keep the ball mistake-free for Josh Allen, then that's what it's going to take. I do want to check out the chat real quick, see who's coming into the chat. John Robert coming into that chat saying, squish the fish. Also saying 44% are expected to be in attendance in Miami. So it does seem like it's going to be more of a 50-50 style of attendance for the Bills Mafia. They always travel well. I remember Fort Lauderdale, they had a very good attendance over there at one of the backers bars. And this is going to be a very fun game. It's just going to be what type of environment is it going to be? Is Josh Allen healthy? There's a lot of question marks for our Buffalo Bills, but I think we'll be fine in this game. I do have the Buffalo Bills winning this game by a score of 27-21 overall. I think it comes down to, for me, just the Bills' balanced offensive attack and their strong defense going up against the Miami Dolphins. It seems like when Tua plays Josh Allen, he does struggle in those games a little bit, but this offense of the Buffalo Bills is going to be able to put up points. Key players for me in the game are going to be Dalton Kincaid as well as Keon Coleman. You got to get the ball to those playmakers in this game. And you also have to rely on James Cook as well as Ray Davis to run the ball. I think if Buffalo is able to utilize the play action as well in this game, it'll be very important. I also want to mention John Roberts' comment. Kingsley Jonathan was called up to the game from the practice squad. That is another great thing to see. Another former Syracuse Orange player called up to the practice squad. We do have a little bit of a depth issue at that defensive end room. You do have Von Miller, AJ Epinesa, and Greg Rousseau at the start of it. But that depth is going to be tested. You do have Casey Toohill as well as Kingsley Jonathan to wrap up that defensive end room this week. But the Bills wanted to have an extra player in there in case of injuries, as well as a special teams ace that can come into the game as well, which is important. I do like your comments, John Robert. Appreciate you for always tuning into the show and coming into the chat. Let's go over real quick to I want to go over to other games that are going to go on in the NFL this week and mention, number one, the AFC East games that we have to keep our eyes out this week. The Seattle Seahawks will travel to the New England Patriots in week 2. That'll be a 1:00 game, as well as the Jets facing the Titans in Nashville. That is another game that we'll have to keep our eyes on. Will Levis versus Aaron Rodgers in that game is going to be interesting. John Robert coming into the chat saying Cole Bishop should play dime some. I expect him to be on the field. You can't keep a guy like that off the field, especially with a defense and offense of the Miami Dolphins that can put up a lot of points early and often. You're going to see him cover some players out there on the field, and I do expect him to be that big nickel in this defense for the Bills. Appreciate you coming into the chat as always. We did see Fitzmagic as well as the rest of the crew, Tony Gonzalez, Andrew Whitworth, Richard Sherman, as well as some others out there outside of Hard Rock Stadium. This is going to be a great game, but let's talk about the AFC East real quick and the standings overall for the AFC East as they lie right now. Currently, the Miami Dolphins are in first place in the AFC East. The Patriots are actually in second place after a win against the Cincinnati Bengals, an upset win, in my opinion, in that game. Bills are currently in third place in the AFC East, but with a win, they can obviously move up even further. The Jets in last place after the loss to the 49ers in that game round out the AFC East. But interesting to see. Definitely interesting to see. Well, let's talk about keys to the game for the Buffalo Bills, how they can win this game, how they can come out of it with a victory this week. It comes down to, for me, obviously the missed tackle rate that was mentioned on Amazon Prime as well as a few other networks. 17.4 missed tackle rate in the game. You're going to need averages 44% missed tackle rate in the NFL. You're going to have to clean it up and get tackles and don't give up extra yardage. Another key to the game for me is going to be the Bills not having unnecessary penalties and procedural penalties that we saw last week. Those cannot happen in this game. You're going to have to make sure that you get the set. You don't give up any big plays. You don't do anything unfoolish that you can hurt or jeopardize your team. You know for sure that the Bills and the Miami Dolphins have a little bit of a history of chirping each other, and you've got to make sure that you keep your composure out there on the field. Don't give up unnecessary penalties. Other areas for me are just making sure that you stay within your gap integrity on defense. You're going to have to, as an edge rusher, you're going to have to stay within your lanes. And as a defensive tackle, you're going to have to maintain the gaps of the A and the B gap. They're so important in this game, making sure that you stay within those. For the offense, it's going to be about keeping the pocket clean for Josh Allen and allowing him time to get the ball to his playmakers, as well as not allowing third and longs in this game where you're going to have to utilize Josh Allen's feet. I think it's important to get the ball to their playmakers. Don't allow Josh Allen to run the ball, especially in this game, because you don't want to take that unnecessary hit that puts Josh Allen out for the rest of the year. If the Bills are able to do these things, I think they'll be able to come out of the Hard Rock Stadium with a win. But it'll be definitely interesting to see what goes on. We are about 10 minutes away from the start of the game. I do want to remind you guys that you can put your score predictions in the chat as always, and also remind you of all the shows that we will have this week. Continuing on later tonight, we will have our halftime show at halftime of the Bills game, as well as our post-game show immediately after the conclusion of the game. We'll also have our overreaction Monday on Friday night, as we always have that show. Those will all be on YouTube as well as Facebook. And then on Nickel City Mafia, we will have our Red, White, and Ruthless show on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as we'll have shows next week early on talking about our week 3 early and often. Monday will be another Overreaction Monday going around the entire NFL. as well as some other shows that we will have our preview show for week 3. So that'll be interesting. Do want to catch my breath real quick because I've been talking a little bit often. So I'm going to go to the chat real quick. A couple of comments here, pull them up. Bills, please, not a lot of penalties in the game. I do agree with that. And also, he mentions Greg Rousseau needs 3 sacks to have the most in history and past Bruce Smith. That's interesting to see. I did not know that. So for the first 2 games, that would be interesting to see. I remember my buddy Sean Kula. He came up with a comment on Greg Rousseau, and he came up with a video mentioning him and talking about him. That as I have a couple of messages come into the chat on my other chat, but he mentioned Greg Rousseau, and it looks like if you look at the ESPN analytics projecting what he can do this season, he's on pace for 51 sacks, and I joke around that's probably never going to happen. Michael Strahan's record of 22 and a half sacks almost came down with TJ Watt last season, but it wasn't able to. But if Greg Rousseau can do that, and playing 80% of the snaps obviously helps a lot, it'll be interesting to see. He is going up against his hometown crowd after playing for the University of Miami, so it'll be interesting to see what happens out there on the field. But I can't wait to see him on the field and what he does. As I mentioned to you guys, this is a game where it's so important to get to Tua and not allow a lot of big plays from the receivers. You got to jam the ball, jam the guys at the line of scrimmage, and just make sure that you're not giving up the big play. This will be interesting matchup. Even Von Miller had a sack. He did beat his total of tackles as well as sacks for last season, so it's going to be fun to watch. But what are you guys excited to see out there on the field for the Buffalo Bills? Who are you excited? What playmakers are you excited to see? And who do you think gets the first touchdown for the Bills tonight? Let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know your score predictions for the game, who you think is going to win, and why you think they are going to win. We always appreciate the comments coming into the chat. John Robert coming in, as always. We appreciate you. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on all social media. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Threads. You can also find us on our website, gobillspodcast.com. Click on that podcast where you can find all of our upcoming shows throughout the week. John Robert coming into the chat saying Ed Oliver needs to step up. The interior offense or defensive line for the Bills is going to need to step up big in this game. We are about 7 minutes away from kickoff, and you know, as always, that we are going to be live at halftime, as I mentioned, and after the game. So I can't wait to see that, and we'll have some interesting takes on what we saw out there on the field. Also, don't forget to go on over to Nickel City Mafia, Red, White, and Bills. Click on their channels and watch their videos on number 1 for Red, White, and Bills. We did the weekly picks on there, and on Red, White, and on Nickel City Mafia, we did our Red, White, and Ruthless show. We did that yesterday, talking about the Bills game and our analysis of the game, what we expect to see out there on the field as well. 2 interesting shows. Click on over to those shows and let them know that Brett from Go Bills Podcast sent you over. They always appreciate it. We are about 5 minutes away from the start of the game. We will see you guys at halftime, and we want to remind you, get your popcorn ready, enjoy the matchup, and enjoy the Buffalo Bills football. As always, go Bills.